If you're trying to increase your chances of getting pregnant, you've come to the right place. In this video, we're going to talk about the biology and the things that you can do to increase your chances. Hi, I'm Nurse Barb. I'm a women's health nurse practitioner, and I've helped thousands of couples get pregnant. I also wrote a guide to fertility, and I know what it's like to want to have a baby and to want to be pregnant yesterday. It can be really, really stressful. And in this video, my goal is to reduce your stress and to give you some easy things that you can do to help increase your chances of getting pregnant. Let's face it, the last thing you need is more stress. And the last thing you want to do is to turn making a baby into a chore. This should be a lot of fun, and you and your partner will want to have sex more frequently. Every 2 to 3 days is optimal to increase your chances of getting pregnant. In fact, 85% of couples who are under age 35 will get pregnant within a year if they have sex 2 to 3 times a week, every single week. That way there's plenty of sperm available when that egg gets released. Let's start off with a little bit of biology. We need one egg and one sperm, right? Well, it's a little bit more complicated than that. It turns out that we actually need millions and millions of sperm to fertilize one egg. And that's because when sperm is deposited into a woman's body, they live for about 5 days because it takes a while for them to swim up through the vagina, the cervix, the uterus, go to one tube or the other tube and be waiting for that egg to be released. As it turns out, it takes many, many sperm to break down that outer layer of the egg called the corona so that one healthy sperm can slip in and fertilize the egg. So when a man ejaculates, he makes semen, right? And that semen contains sperm. So let's go back to what's happening in the man's body. Sperm are produced in the testicles, and the testicles are in the scrotum, and they hang down outside the body. Why is that? It's because sperm like it to be a little bit colder. It's kind of like Goldilocks. Can't be too cold, can't be too hot. It's got to be just right. If it's too hot, it kills the sperm. If it's too cold, kills the sperms. Got to be just the right temperature. And in the testicles, that sperm is being produced. It takes about 10 weeks from the beginning of the production to when the sperm is ready to be ejaculated. So 10 weeks to develop normal, healthy sperm. And what's really helpful is for men to have a lot of ejaculations so the sperm can have good turnover. That helps them have a higher count, and it helps them have a normal, what we call morphology, so that they are healthy enough to fertilize an egg. So when a man ejaculates, he ejaculates some semen. This is a milky white fluid that contains the sperm. It's usually about a half a teaspoon to a teaspoon of fluid. And in that, in every single milliliter of fluid, there's between 15 and 200 million sperm. And 15 is sort of the baseline number of normal, and 200 is what is the higher reaches of normal. If a man's sperm count is below 15 million per milliliter, then they may be advised to make some changes, like not do any hot tubs because that's too hot. Avoid saunas, again, too hot. Avoid bike riding because having the scrotum compressed against the bike seat might kill the sperm. Also, men might be told, don't wear the tighty whities, but switch to boxer shorts instead, which will help with the temperature of the scrotum and help prevent the sperm from being killed off. So when a man ejaculates, that sperm is deposited into the vagina, and then it needs to work its way up through the vagina, the uterus, and the tubes. Not every sperm gets to the tube. Some of them lose their way. Some of them go to the wrong tube, and some of them just kind of hang out, which is why there needs to be millions and millions of sperm ready for that egg. But why should men have sex so frequently? It's so there are millions of sperm available whenever that egg is released. Can you have sex too often? Does that reduce the count? Well, It might reduce the count just by a little bit, but not enough to really make a difference. But there have been studies that show that the more frequently a man ejaculates, the more proteins he makes in his semen that actually nourish the sperm and help them get to the egg. So if you want to have sex twice a day on the days when you're fertile, that's okay too. Let's talk a little bit about what's going on with the woman and her ovulation and that egg release. So as you know, when women have a menstrual cycle, they have these hormonal fluctuations. So at the beginning part of the cycle, they make a lot of estrogen and their temperature is a little bit lower. Remember that, because we're going to talk about that in a minute for how you predict when you're ovulating. Then when a woman ovulates, her temperature comes up. And so if you were to look at her temperature throughout a month, pre-ovulation it's low and post-ovulation it's high. So some women use basal body temperature charting to predict when they ovulate, because pre-ovulation it's low, post-ovulation it's high. That's one way that some women will determine whether or not they're ovulating. So they'll get a basal body thermometer. They'll take their temperature every single morning before they get out of bed. They'll chart it. Now, the first time you do that, you really don't know when is your temperature going to go up, when are you going to ovulate. But if you look back over time, you can pretty much figure out those fertile days about the same time every month when you're probably going to ovulate. There's a couple of other good indicators of ovulation, and one is the cervical mucus will change. So the mucus that your cervix produces will change from kind of a milky white to a very clear, thin mucus that kind of looks like uncooked egg white. And if it comes out of your vagina and you're wiping yourself when you go to the bathroom, you can find it, and it kind of stretches apart on your fingers like this. This kind of mucus is very estrogen dominant, and that helps nourish the sperm as they move up through the cervix. So some women will notice it on their underwear or when they wipe, or they may insert a finger and check their cervical mucus. Another way to check whether or not you're ovulating and releasing an egg is to use an ovulation predictor kit. You can get this at any pharmacy. These ovulation predictor kits check for a surge of luteinizing hormone that's released right before ovulation. It's released about 24 to 36 hours before. All you have to do is urinate on this little indicator strip, and it will tell you whether or not your LH is surging and if you're in that fertility window. Some tests check for LH or luteinizing hormone and estradiol. So they tell you whether or not you're having a surge of estradiol and a surge of LH, which will tell you that this is probably the time to have intercourse. Now, if you're having sex 2 to 3 times a week, you may not need this. You may be able to save your money. But if you and your partner don't live together, or you're not together all the time, if one of you is traveling and you really need to time intercourse, these can be very, very helpful. And they're very accurate. So the best thing to do is use this after your longest period of sleep. What does that mean? Well, most people sleep through the night, and when they get up in the morning, first thing, they can urinate on this ovulation predictor test. But some people work the night shift, and so if you're sleeping during the day, you'll want to do this test after your longest period of uninterrupted sleep. So first thing in the morning, or if you work the night shift, when you get up after your daytime sleeping. Try to only test once a day. It's very tempting to test several times during the day to see if you're ovulating, but the problem with that is that it can be inaccurate if you're not testing after a long period of sleep, and it can get really expensive over time. So if that ovulation predictor test is positive, then you know you're going to ovulate in the next 24 to 36 hours, and it's a good time to have sex frequently. You can have sex 1 or 2 times, or 3 or 4, as many as you can, while you're having fun, of course, to make sure there's lots of sperm available when that egg gets released. So let's say you've done all of those things and you don't get pregnant. Keep trying, keep tracking your temperature, do your ovulation predictor test, and track everything. Write it down in a journal, and then make an appointment with your healthcare provider if you've been trying for more than 6 or 9 or 12 months and you're ready to get pregnant. Because there are a lot of things that then your healthcare provider might offer to you to help you be able to get pregnant when you want. I hope this video has been helpful, and if you like it, please click like and subscribe. You can leave me questions below or any other topics you'd like me to cover. Good luck, and I hope you're able to get pregnant.